Hello, hello. Welcome to Sovereign Alchemy, a podcast where you step into your sovereign power, trust divine timing, and become the CEO of a life you truly deserve. I'm your host, Mary Jo Rember, money mindset mentor and human design coach on a mission to help women recognize their worth, their own power, and unlock their fullest potential. Each week, I'll be sharing money mindset tools, human design wisdom, and wealth manifestation strategy, blending the mystical with the material so that you can create success that also feels good in your body. If you're ready to manifest a life led by confidence, alignment, self-trust, then you're in the right place. Grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let the magic begin. Hello, hello. Welcome back. No longer mindset with Mary. This is kind of a weird change for me. I feel it in my body right now. I feel like I'm letting go of something that took so long to build. And, part of that process is just reminding myself that I'm not abandoning that part of me. That part of me is still there. That part of me is who created where I am today. And I'm so very proud of all of the success that came with Mindset with Mary. So as we step into this new space of Sovereign Alchemy, today's episode is going to be about why this shift. And we're going to dive deep, and I'm going to go into all of the things, but first I just want to say thank you for tuning in. If you're new here, welcome. Welcome to Sovereign Alchemy. If you've been in my world for so long and you were here with me through Magic with Mary and Mindset with Mary, this is going to be that blend. That's what this is going to be, is that blend of the magic and the mindset, right? Because there's duality in everything. And that's really what this change is all about, is stepping into this next phase of life where I learn to integrate and incorporate both of those things, and you get to join me. First of all, I just want to say thank you to all of those of you who left ratings, comments, reviews in the last phase of Mindset with Mary. Thank you so much. It means the world. The winner of the giveaway, which was a 3-session deep dive human design, I reached out to that person. Congratulations. Thank you so much for leaving a rating and review. It means the world to me. Which, by the way, if you're like, wait, I'm curious, I want to know more, or you're like, I didn't win this time, stay tuned because there's going to be more giveaways. That's one of the things that I love to do, is giveaways, especially if you're in the expansion portal. One of the things that I do for the queens in there is each month I have been doing a giveaway for a one-on-one session, whether that be an intuitive guidance call, a human design reading, or a money mindset activation call, or just a wealth expansion call. Today I got off a call with a client, and one of the things that we really did is just we dove into the strategy and what her next steps are to really start to take her one-on-one business and expand it and scale it, right? Because she has so many amazing gifts to give to this world. And in that one-on-one space, if all you're doing is one-on-one, how do you scale and expand that? And so we sat down and we dove into that. So if that's something you're curious about, come join the expansion portal, because there's so many opportunities for you in the expansion portal. Take the course, the abundance blueprint that's within there, and then doing the nervous system regulation that is offered within the expansion portal as well. So you're getting the mindset, the regulation that you need so that you can feel safe, so then it can, these new beliefs that you're wanting to take on can embed into your subconscious mind and become part of the process, that's just working in the background. And then everything starts to align and you kind of just allow it to come to you. We also, within the expansion portal, we dive into astrology, human design, and so much more to really help you align with the identity of who you came here to be. And that version of you who already has the things that she desires. So if you're curious to know more, I'm going to leave the link there in the show notes. Okay, let's dive in. Why the name change? Why Sovereign Alchemy? So first of all, there were so many ideas kind of spiraling for me with what I wanted to do. The first thing that kind of came to me was divine feminine alchemy. And I ended up not going with it because if you guys know me or If you're familiar with human design, I am an emotional authority. Um, a lot of times I get really good ideas and I don't push it through the emotional authority, which is so important if you are an emotional authority or you know somebody who is, to make sure not only you're making decisions if your emotions are up high or down low, but making sure that it's still a yes in that neutral space. So that was the first idea that I kind of came across, was this divine feminine alchemy. And what that was really about is kind of that sovereignty. And that's kind of why it shifted into sovereignty, is this trust in the universal power, right? This unlimited potential that we can tap into it at any moment we want to. And not only this trust in divine timing, but also stepping into the balance between the masculine and the feminine, but also just so often we're taught to like try to control our outcomes. So the feminine came from this space of just like stepping into your power, stepping into that feminine energy of, I attract, I don't need to chase. Everything is already on its way to me. And when I step into my full power, I alchemize the things that are, internal into the external world. And so that was kind of like the first thoughts of what's going to change and what's going to happen here. Then it kind of later changed into sovereign and divine alchemy. I really wanted to stick with alchemy because that's what this podcast is starting to shift into. And it's kind of what it's always been, is we are alchemizing and transforming our life. We are humans experiencing the human world, and sometimes that comes with trauma, sometimes that comes with past experiences that are heavy and hard, and we get to take those experiences and alchemize them into beautiful, amazing realities in which we get to be a part of. And how cool is that for those of us who have kids, or those of us who have, nieces, nephews? They get to watch us alchemize our pain into this beautiful, beautiful space of, personal power, trusting yourself, loving who you are on such a deep core level. And wow, how fun is that? So that was kind of like the first ideas of what was rolling around in my head. I also like the idea of sovereign CEO, right? Like we get to be the CEOs of our dream life, the things that we crave and desire, this wealth expansion that so many of us crave within our businesses, within our careers, within, our lives, our love lives, all of the things. And getting to step into our power and trusting and knowing that we're capable of making those things happen. So let's dive in. First thing I want to talk about is how important evolution is in our journey. If you're in a phase of life where you feel like things are evolving, but you're scared to step into the next level, I just want to honor that for a moment. If you're driving, don't close your eyes, but if you're sitting down somewhere, place your hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, and just take a deep breath here. Just honoring for a moment that evolution. Deep breath in, holding it at the top, and then expanding out through the mouth. Just noticing maybe your shoulders relax as you take that deep breath in, holding space for that evolution, holding space for that version of you that you are becoming, that you already are. You get to be the CEO of your dream life. The version of you who has all the things you desire is already within you. And really it's about just peeling back the layers that we have collected throughout our life, right? We were not born with fear. We collected it along the way. And we get to step into our sovereign power. We get to take our power back, trust, love, and attract. And of course, with that comes the acknowledgement that things are always going to evolve. And especially if any of you listening are a Manny Gen, things are going to evolve a lot quicker for you. And it's important to allow yourself to evolve. It's going to evolve for all of us, whether in human design, you're a projector, a generator, whatever that may be for you, you're going to evolve. But for those of you who are like me, who are Manny Gens, just trust that it's okay. Like it's going to evolve quick, and sometimes your version of complete is going to look way different than somebody else's version of complete. So just noticing the inner shifts that have happened to you, taking a moment here to recognize and see how beautiful that evolution is. Even if you feel like you're in a space where there's so much uncertainty and you don't know what the next steps are, still holding space for the evolution and knowing that, the best is yet to come. Always, right? With that mindset of the best is yet to come, like you open your mind up to seeing so many opportunities. So many opportunities. Um, so as we start to shift and evolve, we begin to take our personal power back. We begin to learn to accept ourselves for who we are, and using sometimes what we see as a weakness as the power, the embodied power of how we actually, like, those are actually our strengths. And when we trust and believe in that, things start to shift. Um, Something I have written down here. This name change came from learning how to love who I actually am, not who I thought I needed to be powerful. And we'll talk a lot more about that here in a minute when we talk about my emotional authority and how I really just have been trying to change that about myself for so long. And, when you start to accept and love yourself, so much changes. So much changes. Okay. So then I want to talk about like the second piece of why the name changed. The core realization was that duality is power. That, and this is kind of where we start to understand that there's just duality in everything, right? We are material beings living in a spiritual world. I started reading the book recently called, and I'll leave the link for that in the show notes, Material Girl Mystical World. And that when I started reading that, that was just confirmation to me that the direction I'm going is in the right place. And the words she speaks and how she talks about how it's okay to be a material girl and want the material things, but also balance that with the spirituality, right? So part of her story is that she just built this wonderful life. She had all these material things, but didn't have the happiness underneath. And that's what this is really about. The duality in both. You want both, because if you build this life, this successful life, right? And I kind of did this in my own business. I kind of backed myself into a corner where I was starting to expand and grow this business and it didn't feel good. And that's what we want. We want expansion to feel good. Now, there's a difference between it feeling uncomfortable, right? Versus aligned. If if it's not aligned, but there's still some uncomfortableness to it because that's part of growing, right? Sometimes our clothes get tighter on us when we're growing as kids, and then we have to expand to the next, from 10, 12 to 14, 16, or whatever. You know what I'm talking about here. But like, there's going to be uncomfortable, but if it does not feel aligned, if your core, if your soul is like, nope, 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 this is your invitation to take a step back, build that discernment, and decide what really truly matters to you. So when it comes to this material girl mystical world, it's the power lies in the integration, not the extremes. It's the mindset and the spirituality. There's the mix and the duality of both, and both matter. And when you learn to balance them, things are going to work out for you. When you learn how to balance the emotion and the logic, so important, right? Logic is, I mean, it can't go out the window, right? We can't like jump off a building and just expect to fly, right? The logic needs to be there, but trusting that, especially if you're an emotional authority, or trusting your gut if you're a splenic authority, like that how it feels in our body is also going to guide us in the right direction, and learning how to balance both of them, right? It's the balance between action and trust. One of the biggest things, and you've probably heard this a lot, is Um, what is that book called? I cannot think for the life of me, but there's a lot of older manifestation material that's very much believe, receive, but it missed the whole piece. Ask, believe, act, receive. We need to be able to take action, right? If you want to manifest more money, you can't just sit at home and expect money to just show up on the front step. There has to be action behind that, intentional action. Now, it doesn't have to be the hustle culture kind of action. There can be other kinds of action, but something needs to happen for that money to come back, right? So the key truth here is that, you know, wholeness lives in the duality, right? It's okay to feel the sadness because if you allow yourself to feel the sadness, you get to feel the happiness. So that's where this kind of came to pieces. Like when I first, started Magic with Mary, it was so beautiful. It was so much more of the spirituality side of things. And then when I wanted to shift into the mindset, it was because I could feel that sometimes that spiritual side of me wanted to not do a whole lot of action. So I shifted into the mindset. And now we get to bring both together, the magic and the mindset. When you bring those together and you're doing it from a space of alignment that flows with who you are on a core level, the transformation and the alchemy is going to happen. Okay, the next thing that I really want to talk about is, personal power begins with loving who you are. You guys know that I love self-love work. I love the idea that self-love is resilience. When you have a resilient mindset, it comes from self-love. Resilience isn't, I'm going to do this because I have to or because I should do it. Resilience is, I'm going to do this because I love myself so deeply, right? Personal power isn't becoming someone new or changing all of the things that actually make you the amazing person that you are. It's standing firm in who you already are. It's about loving your nature instead of managing and suppressing it. How often do you find yourself suppressing the things about you that are amazing? I found that so much in this position that I'm working at the college right now. In athletics, I am a really emotional, passionate person. And as much as I love my boss, I really do. He's a great person. There's a lot of times where he doesn't want me to show that passion, which is crazy because that's just how athletics is. All of the coaches are so passionate. And so is he, which is a crazy part. Um, it's just this idea that this is who we should be, right? The budget financial person, the CFO of the athletic department should not be an emotional person. They need to be a numbers person. Well, guess what? What makes me good at my job is that I am a people person. I care about other people. I care about other people's emotions and how they feel and how we succeed together, right? I become passionate and I take ownership for my work. And if that's not being valued, if that's not going to be something that is seen as worthy, then I don't get to make that mean that I'm not worthy. I just get to make that mean that this might not be the right space for me, that I get to choose something different. So this idea that loving who you are, and this job actually gave me such a beautiful, unique experience in which I got to learn so much about who I am and how I get to love that version of me. And when I do that, the right space for me will come, the right place for me where I get to express all of those things and I get to stand in that power and love myself for that. The right people will find me. The people who value and see the worth of that will find me. It's about using your gifts consciously instead of apologetically. Like we get to be unapologetic about who we are, right? What if the thing you've been trying to fix is actually your source of power? What if the thing that you have been trying to fix is actually your source of power? I want to talk a little bit about my emotional authority as a human design. A Manny Gen, I'm a 4/6 Manny Gen emotional authority. If you don't know your human design and you'd like to know more about it, I'll leave a link below and you can book a human design reading and we can dive deep into, your personal strategy, your authority, how you make decisions best, because a lot of times we're just conditioned that we all should be doing it this way, but we're all designed very uniquely. And so once you kind of learn what that is for you, and it's funny because when I bring people in, the first time they ever see their human design chart, they're like, wow, yeah, I've recognized that. I noticed that. Oh, and it's really just this validation that you're amazing. You're worthy as who you are, and now you get to start stepping into that. And in those sessions, we really get to kind of drill down, the key things that you want to be focusing on to really help you start to recondition and start being more of yourself again. And seeing that when you do that, that actually attracts and grows your capacity to grow your wealth, to grow your relationships and all the things. So if you're curious, check out the link in the show notes. Okay, so back to emotional authority. So the emotional authority, basically, it's you're just an emotional human being. I feel things very deeply. I feel the highs and the lows intensely. And as I make decisions, they need to run through a process where I am not making my decisions based on an extremely excited place or extremely depressed place, or an anxious place or anything like that. If my emotions are outside of my tolerance zone, then I really want to sit with those emotions. I want to go for a walk. I want to move my body. I want to talk it out, right? Because I have, that defined throat chakra that goes from my 24, is it 24 to 30 or is it 20 to 34? I might have that backwards. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Anyways, basically it's coming from sacral energy to the throat chakra, right? I want to express those things out loud and talk with somebody that's safe to have those conversations with so that I can so that clarity comes, right? Then when I'm in this neutral zone, if if it's still a yes, then I make that decision and move forward. If it's a no, then I don't make that decision, right? It's not yet. It's either a not yet or it's a no. So because I'm an emotional authority, I thought, and I used to believe that sovereignty meant that I was not showing my emotions, that I thought that me expressing my emotions, and I remember this so much as a teenager, I suppressed so much energy and emotion and wanted to be, I didn't want anyone to know what I felt or how any of those things, right? And as I grew into the kind of person who does like express my emotions, I in this job that I'm in now, like I recognize that, oh crap, like people don't want that. But that's not the case. I just might be in the wrong place. Or I also am not seeing the worth in that, and so then other people are not seeing the worth in that. So I, again, kind of going back to this idea that I believed that me being this sovereign person, me being able to step into my power meant that I could not show emotions, right? That I had to hide that and that I needed to be this calm, cool, and collective person. And that being like, and not seeing that the power in my emotions, like, that is what makes me magnetic, that I can feel so deeply. Um, and so it was really about this realization that my emotions are just information, not a weakness, right? And I always had people wanting me to make decisions quickly, right? And then I would make them quickly because I thought I had to. And so this is where my personal power came in. I don't need to be a neutral person. I don't need to not show my emotions. I get to feel those emotions and I get to place a boundary around that. That's where the sovereignty comes in. That's where, okay, I'm the kind of person who needs to give my emotions a wave. And once it goes through that wave and I still feel, this is what we need to do, then that's what we need to do. So then at work, I'm not getting people saying we need to fix this right now and making me feel like I need to fix it right now. And I had a hard time telling people no. No, right now is not a good time, right? Like we need to schedule this meeting right now so that we can figure this out. And I always take a deep breath and I say, thank you so much. I love that you want to fix this. If you want the best of me, you want me to make the best decision, I need to give this a day or two, especially where it's not due right away. I promise we can book a meeting later down the road. I'll book it right now. I'll get it in the schedule so that we can talk about this first thing Monday morning. But I need to be emotionally collect. I need my emotions to be where they, where I can make the best decision. And if you want me to be able to make that best decision, then we're not going to rush this right now. And that can be challenging, right? That can be really challenging. So, where I used to have people try to force me into decisions, and this was like all of my childhood, I have to make decisions right now, right now, right now, right now. And now I just know I get to feel it first, right? Another thing that's really helped me in my relationships is, you know, and I'll give you a quick example here. Lawrence, my husband, he said something the other day and it kind of pissed me off. I could feel my emotions growing. And he was like, explain it to me, like what I could do better. And I was like, I don't think right now is a good idea. Like, I just feel like my emotions are too heavy and anything I say is not going to be, it's not going to be truth for you or for me. And so it would just be best if we wait. I'll call you tomorrow morning at 10 and we can talk about it. Letting that go. And he was like, all right, fine, we'll wait. Um, like I care about what you're asking for and I promise I'm gonna get back to you, but I just need to wait. And my husband's an emotional authority too, so if ever he's like pissy with me, now I get to know like this might not be his truth. This might not be truth for him. These are just his emotions. It's not that his emotions aren't valid. It's what he's feeling at the time. It's truth for him in the moment. But when you're in a neutral space, you can look at the bigger picture, right? And then also like just letting him feel those emotions so he can find his truth. You find your truth through allowing that emotional wave. So the moral of this story is that I thought for me to be this sovereign person at work, in the professional world, at my house, all of these things meant that I couldn't feel my emotions, meant that I had to not show them. But that's not the case. It's just learning to have boundaries around what I need so that it comes across clearly, so that people can see, okay, she's not ready to make that decision yet. Okay, she's not ready to talk about this yet. Once it runs through those waves, I'll be back. I'll give you my full attention. And once they learn that and they see the value in me making a better decision, the value in me having a deeper conversation with my husband that's more meaningful, more connected, we're going to get so much further. So, kind of a key thing here for me as an emotional authority was just learning that boundaries are not walls, they're containers for your power, right? So, whatever your authority is, or whatever these things are for you that maybe you you know that they're like on a soul level a gift, but you find yourself like in society, people telling you that you shouldn't be that way, learning the boundaries around that, learning how to, make these deeper connections of how you can then implement that into society in a way that is in your sovereign power. And this is something like and this is why I love the expansion portal. We have monthly Q&As where you get to come on, ask questions, and if that's something you want to dive deeper into in the expansion portal, we could dive into that on one of these group question and answers. So again, I'll leave the link to the expansion portal below. Okay, so another thing, kind of going back to that duality, right? There's, the mindset and the spirituality. something I've kind of been learning over the last few months is how to balance out my north and south node, um, kind of based off my astrology chart. And so this is something that has really kind of helped me shift and understand why this change is happening for me. So it kind of in traditional astrology, you'll hear that your north node is really just it's that's what you need to follow, right? It's your soul calling. It's the thing um that your destiny, your greatest potential. And what I didn't understand at first is that it doesn't actually mean that you're going to abandon your south node. Your south node is so important because those are your gifts. Those are the things that you're good at. That's where you feel comfortable. And so, um, again, like growth in your full potential doesn't mean abandoning your south node. It's about learning how to wield them together differently so that they get to naturally grow together, right? The south node holds those natural gifts, and the north node teaches how to direct them, right? It's the evolution, it's the integration, not rejection. And so when I was kind of like shunning my south node, and what that did was kind of put me in a place where I was ignoring the things that I was really, really good at. And I'll kind of talk a little bit about mine. If you want to dive deeper, again, this is another topic that you could bring to the question and answer sessions in the expansion portal. The more people that are kind of in there, the more I might end up doing 2 sessions, just kind of depending on how these questions grow in the expansion portal. And then this just gives everyone the opportunity to ask more questions, like bring that into the group question and answer. Here's my north node, here's my south node, or I don't even know how to look up my north and south node. Help me kind of do that and we could dive even deeper there. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about my north and south nodes so you can kind of see where this duality is and why this shift is happening, especially with the Sovereign Alchemy podcast. So my south node is in Cancer, which is much of that like caretaker gift, right? Kind of that mama bear mother energy. And I'm really good at that. In fact, so good at it. And at the same time, it's funny because my entire life, I've never wanted to make dinner. I've never wanted to do all of these things. I wanted to be, right? Even through my high school years, I'm like, I'm going to be a career woman. I'm going to do all this. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to do all these things and I'm going to be like a CEO. And I'm like, like that, like I want to be a leader. So that was my North Node pulling me, but also my south node has always pulled me back a little bit because it's like, well, I could just be a secretary. Like, I love taking care of people. I love doing this, but at the same time, I get bored. So, how do I balance the two, right? When my south node is Capricorn, right? It's that leadership, the authority, the legacy. How do I use the Cancer, right, which is the emotional holder, the nurturer, the intuitive feeler, that version of me that I'm so good at being, that deep emotional intelligence, ability to sense needs before people even speak them, right? Like that's why I'm really good at coaching because I know what you need probably before you even know what you need. Um, and I'm really good at letting you know how amazing and wonderful and worthy you are. I'm really good at nurturing those relationships. But for me to help my clients grow, I need to step into leadership. I need to step into empowerment so that I can not hold their hand through the process, be able to let go and say, I trust you, you've got this, and letting them grow, right? So kind of the power in the like stepping into this is like I don't stop caring, right? I stop overextending, right? So as I step into my leadership energy, I start to have to learn how to stop overextending myself. At work, I find myself asking our assistant, like, how can I help you? Which is great. That I think that's what makes me such a great leader is I'm always willing to say, how can I help you? And at the same time, I need to empower her to learn how to start asking me How can I help you? Right? Not that my job is more important or anything. It's just that some of the things I'm doing is kind of focusing on the bigger picture. And if I'm always trying to help her and over giving and helping her do her job, then the bigger picture things are getting missed, right? I have to step into that leadership energy, that Capricorn energy, right? The structure, the responsibility, the sovereignty, the the leadership from the rooted self-trust, authority that doesn't require emotional shutdown, right? Because when I'm learning how to use my emotional authority, I don't have to shut down. I just get to let myself feel those emotions. I get to go on a walk. I get to, take a break. So, for me to be able to stand in firm decisions, I need to not overextend myself and overgive, but still care deeply. So the reframe is leadership doesn't mean becoming less emotional. It means becoming more self-led, right? So it's really learning how to integrate my natural gifts of that mother bear nurturer into my leadership world. There's always going to be the tug and pull, that karmic tug and pull between your north and south node. And it is your job to then learn what that looks like in the middle, that balance. The duality is going to be there. How do you learn to find the middle space? And that's what the Sovereign Alchemy podcast is stepping into, learning how to be able to balance all of the things around you and step into your personal power and trust that sometimes there can be chaos going around you. You get to step into your sovereign power and be like, all right, things are chaotic. Let's do some deep breathing here. you know, like just because there might be chaos around me doesn't mean I have to make meaning of it. Doesn't mean I have to make meaning of it. Doesn't mean I have to make meaning of it. Also, kind of like with all of this is the duality of like making meaning of things, right? There's this old version of me who used to say, I don't believe in astrology and human design anymore because it it makes me make meaning of things and then I don't, right? And then there's that mindset version of, like if you make something make meaning, you're going to filter your world around that. Just because you know your human design chart does not mean you have to make meaning of it. Just because your north node is in Capricorn doesn't mean that, or just because, let's see, my my Chiron, right, I think it's in Cancer too. I have a lot of Cancer signs. Is in Cancer doesn't mean that I'm always going to struggle with my relationship with my mom. I just have to learn how to work with that relationship. I don't have to let it make mean that my relationship is always going to be hard. I get to choose differently. Now I'm aware of it. Now I have this validation that, yep, okay, I decided to come here and choose that I would have a hard relationship, you know? And it doesn't have to be forever. So there's the balance there. All right. So we talked a lot about that duality, the balancing your north and south node. I talked about how, like, sometimes your greatest gifts are the things that you think are wrong with you and that you need to fix, but sometimes those are your greatest gifts. And that's like if you're stuck in not being able to manifest more money in your business, is it because you're not using your greatest gifts? Just something to think about. Like, and it's so worth learning more about. I do a human design reading. Again, I'll leave that link in the show notes. If you join the expansion portal, though, I pull your chart. We get to talk about it. And you get to be a part of the community where we learn more about it. And if you're like, I'm not sure if I want to join the expansion portal, but I do want the human design reading, we can talk more about what that transition looks like from doing the human design reading to then moving into the wealth expansion portal. Okay. All the things. So again, like I thought sovereignty meant that I couldn't show my emotional side. What I learned is that I get to deeply feel my emotions, set the boundaries, and that's what sovereignty looks like for me. Um, Again, boundaries are not walls, they're containers for your power. standing firm in your gifts, right? Owning your depth of whatever it is that maybe some society has told you that you shouldn't be, but you're really good at being. I know a lot of people who grew up in the community I'm in. It's a very religious community. You're taught to seek guidance outside of you in this religion. And so part of, some of these people that I work with who are kind of like learning, like stepped out of that religion and kind of learning how to take on their personal power is that like it's not outside of you. It's actually within you, right? When people talk about the Holy Ghost is just spirit, is God. The law of divine oneness. We're all connected. God is within you. And when you understand that and recognize it, you're not looking outside of you for the answers. The answers are within you. Learning, okay, what else did we talk about here? Letting others be uncomfortable with your pace. That's important too. That can be a huge part of this sovereign alchemy, right? Other people might be trying to push you into doing things that you don't want to do or telling you, your dreams are unrealistic, right? Your gifts are so important. Where are you being asked to be something you're not? And how is that changing the trajectory? Trajectory? How is that changing the trajectory? I cannot say that word. Of your reality that you're wanting to create. How is that holding you back? Right? The alchemy comes in loving who you are so deeply that we stop caring so much of what other people think of us. And don't get me wrong, it's important to care what your loved ones think of you because that matters too. But I mean, are you caring so deeply about people who are not even part of your inner circle, right? Not even part of the people that you that should be a part of that circle of who you even, should be worrying about. Um, all right. Why the new name holds its frequency. I wrote down a few things here. The new name reflects sovereignty, embodiment, leadership, and alchemy. It holds emotional depth and authority. Authority, and I'm not talking about like the emotional authority. It holds authority for stepping into your power, right? That authority of like, this is who I am, and I'm so proud of that. It represents a woman who trusts herself, right? What action would you take tomorrow if you 100% knew that you would accomplish the things that you want to accomplish? How would you show up differently, right? A woman who leads without abandoning her own needs. That's what this is really about, right? Who am I when I stop negotiating with myself? So that's why, like, all of these bits and pieces, there's still so much more that we could dive into of why this name changed. But that's kind of the biggest piece here is, oh my gosh, just seeing how magnetic you already are, loving who you are so deeply. Okay, a few closing notes here and kind of an invitation to own your power, to step into your power. Come join this journey with me. Stay tuned, subscribe to the podcast, follow along, because this isn't about me positioning myself as above you. This is about me positioning myself, going on this journey with you, right? A couple things here. You are allowed to love who you are. You are allowed to lead in your own way. You are allowed to take your time. Sovereignty is self-trust, not self-denial. If you're learning how to trust yourself, protect your energy, and lead from who you truly are, you're already stepping into your power. You do not need to do anything differently. You just need to be who you already are. And if you need help with that, I would love to be a part of your journey. I would love to help you see your worth and power. And knowing that when you start to see your worth and power, everything around you magnetizes. Your external environment is shaped by your internal environment. And if you want help reshaping that internal environment to then start to create the things that you truly desire to become that CEO of your dream life, check out some of the links in the show notes. I would love to work with you. Come join the expansion portal where that's the work we do. That's the work that we do to step into our power, rewire your subconscious mind, regulate your nervous system, and really truly step into the identity and version of you who already is magnetic. Okay, that's what I have for you today. I love you. Mwah. Bye-bye.